In today's episode, Matthias asks, soon we will be preparing budgets for next year. What tips do you suggest? It's that least wonderful time of year, budgeting and planning. But it's also the most essential, and if you get it wrong, you set yourself up for a really uncomfortable year where you can't deliver on the results that people are asking of you. So, how do you do this? Well, budgeting is forecasting, and forecasting means prediction. And so, we're going to talk a lot about predictive analytics. The first thing you need to do is dig into your existing data, and you're going to need two sets of data. You're going to need the outcomes that you generated over the year by channel and strategy based on your historical data, and you're going to need the cost data. So, for example, you're going to have the outcome of SEO and then the cost of SEO, including like all the tools and the amount of time that you spent on it. And then that gives you the ability to compute ROI, because ROI is earned minus spent divided by spent. Classical formula, make sure that you use it appropriately. You need this cost data. And if you're not doing cost data as part of your ROI calculations, well, A, you're not doing ROI, but B, you will not have the data you need to do budgeting appropriately. So make sure that you break out on a worksheet all of your outcomes, all of your costs, and then the ROI of each. Remember to include time. Everything you do in budgeting should have a hard dollar cost and a soft dollar cost. And you need to have both in there, because that's the only way you can plan and resource for the future. The second thing you need to do is identify the goals and the targets to hit. And a lot of this is going to be working backwards, usually with sales data. So you're going to have three scenarios you'll be writing for. Status quo, if nothing changes, these are the targets of the company. Usually that's not acceptable, but that's like the floor. Like, you can't go below this amount, because it just shows that you're going backwards. There's the needed amount. So if you have a floor of 1,000 leads for the year, maybe your needed amount, your target amount you need to hit your base sales goal, it'd be like 2,000 leads. And then your third scenario is your stretch, the ideal outcome for the year. Remember that by doing your cost and your ROI calculations with your existing outcomes, you should have essentially a dollar amount per acquisition of your target. So if it's website visitors is your outcome, if it's email subscribers, if it's leads, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, whatever it is, you need to have that cost per that target. And that is an essential computation, because what you're going to be able to say is, status quo, our cost per acquisition was this, our needed cost per acquisition is this, our stretch cost per acquisition is this. So if you have 1,000 leads, and it costs, let's call it $1, right? $1 per lead. Then your status quo budget to acquire another 1,000 leads is going to be $1,000. If you have 2,000 as your needed goal to hit your sales numbers, you're going to need $2,000. And this is where a lot of marketers get lost, because they just kind of do stuff or make up numbers instead of going backwards and saying, no, if you want 2,000 leads, it's going to cost you $2,000. We cannot generate 2,000 leads for 50% off. You're not buying stuff at Walmart. There's a cost per acquisition. Okay, so now you have your costs, you have your targets, you have your cost per target. The third thing you need to do, fourth thing you need to do is forecast by channel what your likely outcomes are using predictive analytics. So take your Google Analytics data, forecast it forward 52 weeks, or actually 70 weeks, because you're going to need to forecast through the end of 2019. And what you want to do is forecast that out so that you can identify what your likely outcomes per channel are. So if you have number of leads generated in your marketing automation software, you want to forecast that forward. If you have website visitors or form fills or whatever it is, forecast that out, and that will give you your likely totals for the year to come for every channel that's in your analytics. The next thing to do is identify the delta among those outcomes. So if you know that it takes, for example, 10 visitors for every lead, and you forecast forward your website traffic with predictive analytics, you can then essentially distill down how many likely leads you're going to get and identify that gap. Okay, we know from the status quo we're going to get 979 leads, but our needed goal is 2,000. Okay, we have a gap of 1,021 leads we need to make up. There's your delta between what's likely to happen and what you need to have happen. And when you have that, now you can start calculating costs. You can say, okay, we're going to need an extra $1,071 or $1,021 to make up the gap for that extra those extra leads that the business needs to hit. And if you have a stretch goal like 5,000 leads, and you say, okay, it's going to cost you an extra $4,000 and change in order to get to that stretch goal. Having that gap and being able to prove this is the cost of a lead and this is the cost of what it takes to acquire that lead is how you get to your budget numbers in an intelligent way, instead of making stuff up. The next thing you do is using that same predictive analytics data, rescale it essentially so that every week or month is a percentage of the whole, and then you allocate your budget across that. So if you know it's going to cost you $5,000 to acquire all the leads you want, and remember, we're using fictional numbers here, and you know that in July, we'll say July, it's going to be July's going to be 10% of all your lead gen is going to happen in that month. Then you know your budget for that month is going to be $500, and so you forecast out, you rescale your prediction as percentage, and then you apply your budget numbers to you apply those percentages to your budget numbers to figure out exactly what to spend each month. And if you've done it with Google Analytics data, for example, or your marketing automation data, then you also do it by channel. So if you know search is 10% of all of your leads, and you've put $500 in July, $50 has to go to search. See how that works? You're using math to precisely allocate out your budget. If a channel spread too thin, if you know, like looking at, I've only allocated $1 for Facebook in July, you may want to consider just pulling that budget out of Facebook and putting it to a higher performing channel. Again, that's why that you start off with that highest ROI channel analysis up front, because if you don't do that, you will be spreading the butter way too thin across too many pieces of bread. Now, that's the process that is target-based and outcome-based. What happens in some organizations is that you're given a pool of money, and some bigger corporations and companies are like this, where they say, well, you have $500 to work with, period, no matter what you care about or what you think the goals are. You repeat the above process, but you use 500 as that budgeting amount to forecast out through the year, and you identify based on cost per acquisition. You can say, hey, $500 is only going to get you 500 leads. You're going to have a 50% drop from this year where we had $1,000 for 1,000 leads. And you hand that back to the folks in charge and say, this is what you're going to get. This is the likely outcome. If that's not okay, you need to add budget. But we're telling you right now, this is what you're going to get. I was at a past company and got a budget number that was 50% smaller. And I said to the powers that be, you're going to get 50% fewer results. And lo and behold, 3 months into the new year, they're like, why is our numbers down so much? Well, because you gave us 50% of the resources, so you got 50% of the result. That's how life works. So be able to defend and prepare and demonstrate that you've done your homework and created a budget that meets the outcomes that you want. That's the process for budgeting that I recommend, and one that I suggest that you follow in your work as well. As always, if you have questions, please ask them here and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.